The Blue Jackets spent a week in Toronto tonight. We'll talk about what went down tonight in Toronto today in Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Hayden Heilsorn. My co-host is Jay Foster. We're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite team and ours, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before I get going, I want to say thank you to the everydayers for making this your first listen every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're free right here on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you're watching here. We're also free on the SiriusXM app. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $20 off your first purchase. It's a great time to go to a game with the weather getting colder. You want to get out and hit the town. And we are hitting the record button right after Kent Johnson just called game at whatever the arena's called in Toronto. It doesn't matter because all the Maple Leafs fans are walking home shocked because I think you thought, everybody, maybe even the Blue Jackets themselves thought that game was going to be a 6-5 overtime loss, but just out of nowhere, Kent Johnson just wins that game. And there's a lot of thoughts and feelings we can have. Like, we are hitting the record button right after this game. So I have just lightning running through me right now because that was such a fun game to watch. The most fun game I've watched all year, Jay. How are you feeling after that, man? That was insane.
I feel like I'm going insane. I know it's fun to like joke and laugh, and like if the Blue Jackets lost this game, we'd be having a very different recording, I think. But they allowed that first early goal, and I was like, surely this can't happen again. And then they allowed a second goal, and I'm like, please don't let this happen again. Around about the time that they scored the third goal, I was like, this is going to overtime. Sometimes you get a feeling, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about what goes on in the Blue Jackets third periods, because even the games they win, it feels like the third period is just a complete nightmare. The first two periods are great. First two periods, I had so much fun. I was ready to give Elvis the Vezina. He made like 30-something saves in the first two periods. Kent Johnson, wow. What a game he had. I thought Adam Fantilli didn't get on the score sheet, looked fantastic. The Russian line continues to be maybe the most fun thing about this team. And then the third period rolls around, and it's the same thing every single game, it feels like. And I was like, they can't blow a fight. Like, blowing a 3-goal lead, sure, it's unlucky, it happens. Blowing a 5-goal lead, I had mentally prepared for Austin Matthews to score the game winner in overtime to get the hat trick, because that's just how this game felt like it was going to go. And good Lord, this team is legitimately giving me gray hair, and I feel insane about it.
Yeah, that third period was so predictable. It's not even funny. It was like, it's crazy how fast it happens too, right? Because it's only 20 minutes of hockey, and the Blue Jackets are just, oh, wow. Like, it was, I still don't, I have like a million words to say about this game, but I just don't know which ones to say, because the Blue Jackets blew a 5-goal lead tonight. Mm-hmm. But that overtime and the way that it finished, and even though the Blue Jackets could have easily lost that overtime, and I don't understand the people, by the way, that have an issue with the way that the 3-on-3 overtime is in the NHL. I still think, I watch plenty of sports. It is the most exciting period.
Oh, it's so much fun. I love overtime. It's extremely stressful. my watch kept yelling at me because it thought I was doing like strenuous exercise during overtime. But yeah, it's so much fun. I get
Yeah.
that the people are like, "Oh, it's not real hockey; it doesn't count."
What
But
does that mean?
I'm with you. I like
That
it.
looked like
It's better than
hockey.
the shootout. You
Yeah,
know,
you asked what Ken Johnson did, like that was hockey, okay? And the way that he the celebration too was just warm up the buses, like that was the best part of that too. And it's just that's where I'll address the elephant in the room here. I obviously said this game was not winnable for the Blue Jackets. In the best case scenario for Columbus, I still had this game as a loss. I think they were going to win some games in this next stretch here before the end of the year, but I did not think they would win this one tonight. They did, and I will admit, this team is so much fun to watch because they play a majority of the game really great hockey, right? Like it's every night, Jay, 40 minutes.
and I
Fun.
think, like, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's what's been so frustrating about this season is that you can see what this team could be. You know, the first 40 minutes of this game, we've had games before where, again, 40 minutes have been incredible. The first period was great, and then they fall apart, and then they pull it back in the third period. We haven't seen 60 minutes of consistent hockey from this team yet, I don't think. Maybe the St. Louis game last week, but you can see flashes of what this team can be. And I don't understand why they can't do that all the time. Because if they play like they played the first 40 minutes, for 60 minutes every single game, like this team is at the top of the metro. And it's so annoying to watch.
And you know what's funny? I thought this team was done this year. I've said that there's no reason to keep playing Macklin Celebrini. I've looked up mock drafts. They are 6-5-1 in their last 12 games. That's hard to believe that we've been watching this team and it feels like they've been playing so bad, but they're 6-5-1 in their last 12. So things are actually getting better. And I know this is a gut reaction to a very emotional game in a big NHL. We know the Blue Jackets played up to their opponent tonight because when they play at places like the Garden in New York or Boston, or they play at the United Center, or they play in Edmonton, like they play up to their opponent. They know that the hockey world is watching those games, and that's what I felt like the first two periods were for this team. And it was fun, right? Like Patrick Laine getting the goal to start the game was just, typical Patrick Laine, just finding a little time and space in front of the net and just absolutely burying a shot on Samsonov, which credit you knew, you called it on their goaltending tonight. Like Samsonov didn't look
good
the
enough.
best.
Yeah.
No.
I will say, I just as we started recording this, we did get an email from a listener who reminded me that I did predict a 6-5 overtime win.
Let's go
in this game.
Jay, let's go.
Which
let's go.
Really wish I couldn't remember what I predicted. But yeah, no, I think I did predict a 6-5 overtime win.
Nice.
Wish I didn't have to do that. Wish I'd been wrong and that they'd managed to hold on to that 5-goal lead. But I'll take the point in our competition. But just, it's weird. I'm excited about this win, and I am happy that they got the win. The team looks better than they did this time last month. But I'm still seeing so many worrying things coming out of literally the third period. Like they flash it up on the screen. The Blue Jackets are plus 12 in periods 1 and 2 so far this season. In period 3, they have a goal differential. That's their goal differential. In the third period, they have a goal differential of minus 27.
Oh, yeah, that's not surprising. They've been the least successful team in the third period this year. I'd be willing to bet. But the point is they get the job done tonight. And if you look at what they've done in the last 12, it's actually above 500. And they're going to play a lot. They're going to see the Leafs at least twice in the next 7 games, which is, if you like tonight's game, wait to see what they do next week. I believe that game is Saturday. So yeah, when they host the Leafs at Nationwide. So that's going to be a fun one to run this one back. And the Jackets will play 3 more games before then. So we'll see what this team looks like. But we're going to get into that conversation. Is this sustainable? Can Columbus do something the next 7 games and position themselves going into the new year as a playoff contender? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Blue Jackets. Next, I want to talk to you guys about GameTime because I like to go to sporting events. Obviously, I'm a huge Blue Jackets fan. Jay's a huge Blue Jackets fan. We went to a game together this year. We both bought tickets with GameTime, and it is a phenomenal app. I am using it this upcoming week. Actually, I'm going to a game in New York for a little trip that I'm on, and yeah, it's the most simple app to use. It's got a great interface, much better than some of those other ones out there. And they're always trying to get you a good deal. They have great last minute tickets. They have flash deals. They have zone deals. They have easy to find and buy tickets for any kind of event in your area, whether you're going to a sports a game, a music show, comedy show, or a theater event. They have everything. They have views from your seat. Those zone deals are pretty fun because you pick the section, they pick the seat for you, so you get the best price, also guaranteed every time, event cancellation protection, and it's my favorite app personally. I also like to just search, like I just spend plenty of time on the GameTime app because it's simple, easy to use. It's just a fun app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Jay. So the game that the Jackets played tonight against the Maple Leafs has me thinking, because the Maple Leafs are a good team, and I think, they got a good coaching staff with Sheldon Keefe, and I don't know, I was watching the Sportsnet version with the Canadian broadcast version, and they put their assistant coach, I believe his name is Guy Boucher, on
Boucher, yeah.
Guy Boucher, yes. So they put him on. This dude has glasses on, and he's got like a scar on his face, and he's yelling at the Maple Leafs like power play when they're down 5-4, and I'm like, oh gosh, like they're totally about to get a goal. Like if that guy was yelling at me. So the Blue Jackets beat a very good team tonight, and I know overtime it's hard to make anything of that and be like, oh, they're gonna keep playing well the rest of the year. But I think the way that they closed out tonight, Jay, was enough to propel this team going forward in a momentum standpoint. Like this team is building momentum, and young players scoring goals tonight is good. Like they're going to forget about the fact that they blew a 5-goal lead because they won the game 6-5. You know what I mean? And my question for you is, do you think that this is sustainable for them in their next 7 games going into the new year? Can they still make a season out of this?
So my short answer is maybe, which is not a satisfying one. But if I can kind of elaborate a little bit, if they keep doing what they're doing, I think yes, maybe if they can use this as a momentum thing. But the problem is sometimes you win a game even if you're not playing very well. And the coach looks at that and thinks, well, I'm not going to change anything because why should I? We won the game. We don't need to change anything. There are things I would change in this game, And if you looked at this box score, you'd be like, oh, wow, I bet that was a real battle, 6-5. Good job on the Blue Jackets. But going up 5-0 and then allowing 5 goals and then winning in overtime, that doesn't seem sustainable to me. They will probably do a game like that. I feel like this is the 4th or 5th game that they've gone into the third period with a multi-goal lead and got rid of it. I was trying to think of a polite way of saying what I wanted to say, but I don't think it is sustainable. But I wonder if something like this kind of put not the fear of God into them, but shows them that they have to try in the third period. Because I just went to look at the shots, excuse me. In the first period, Blue Jackets had 11, Toronto had 10. In the second period, they had 15 each. In the third period, with the Leafs down 5-0, they had 21 shots on goal, and the Blue Jackets only had 7. Like, they took their foot off the gas. They were standing on Toronto's neck, and they stepped off. And I think this win should show them that you can't do that. You have to keep going. You have to keep standing on necks if you want to win in this league. I kind of want to address a response that we got on Twitter about the third period problem that they're having. So at EP Light the Lamp says, how can you consistently play 2 good periods only to crap the bed in the third? It's ridiculous. It's not just a little bit of a difference. They're always hanging on for dear life with no offensive zone time whatsoever. How does that happen? And I think there's a couple of things here. And I do think part of it is that they are trying to protect a lead, despite the fact that basically every single analyst worth their salt will tell you that the best way to protect a lead in the third period is to keep going. And so instead, what they do is they turtle and, to use a soccer term, they basically just pass it around the back four the entire period. And it looks like they're killing a penalty for 20 minutes straight. And it's a really unsatisfying, a really frustrating way to play. I think specifically with the Blue Jackets, what happens is they're very aware that they've done this before, and you allow that early first goal against, I think, was it Nylander scored like 30 seconds into the third period? I'm pretty sure Brad Marchand did the same thing against Boston when they were up 1-0. They allowed a goal very early in the third period, and I'm sure LA as well. They allowed a goal like in the first maybe 2 minutes of the third period to start the comeback for the Kings. You've done this before. You start panicking. I know that I had that feeling in my stomach of, oh God, not again, as soon as that first goal went in. And I think it's a little bit mental of, they know that this happened before. They start panicking. They start gripping their sticks too tight. And the next thing you know, the Leafs have scored 3 goals in 10 minutes or whatever. And then Austin Matthews gets 2 in a 30-second span to send it to overtime. So the only way out, I think I said on yesterday's podcast, like the only way out is through. And they made it out. They made it through. It wasn't pretty, but hopefully this has kind of taught them, okay, we made this way harder for ourselves than it needed to be. What if next time we just keep going instead of trying to hang on to, make it 6-0, make it 7-0, really twist the dagger. I know I retweeted, I think Pale Dragon on Twitter saying we want 10. We want 10. Don't take your foot off the gas. Keep going. Drive straight through the wall. And hopefully the message is finally starting to sink in for them, because like I said, this is at least the third time in the last like maybe 10 games, and probably more, that I've repressed. So my final thought on this game is that everyone except Kent Johnson should be bag skated until they puke tomorrow. But I don't know if you have any kind of finishing thoughts on the game, and how sustainable you think it is, because I feel like I've been talking for a minute here.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think you've pointed out the obvious here is, like, for me, the Blue Jackets are good enough to be a playoff team. They're good enough to win a playoff series. Like, I believe that truly. Like, they have that much talent. Their top line, and they're not playing their top line, is their top. It's their best performing line. It's Voronkov, Marchenko, and Chinakhov is their best performing line, but it's obviously not their top line. But that line is getting better game by game. Adam Fantilli is getting better game by game. Johnny Gaudreau is starting to settle in a little bit more. Like, he's moving like at the pace of the continents, it feels like. But the point is, he's moving, and it's like they're taking the right steps, but the third period is still a huge issue for this team right now. And something's got to be done. Something has to be done because this team is in a huge rut. And I don't know, again, if it's like their opponent just comes into the game and is like, oh, it's the Blue Jackets, we can take it easy. The Blue Jackets are obviously good enough to take advantage of a team coming in a little lackadaisical. And then in the third period, that team, kind of like it's when you're playing your little brother in a video game and you start to lean forward, like, okay, I can't let this little squirt win right now. Like, I need to win this game in Madden. It's like that. I don't know if it's that, but something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. The good thing is, though, is like the Blue Jackets are getting wins. They're starting to get more wins. Let me remind you, they at one point this year they had lost 9 straight games. So, and I'm a Pistons fan in basketball. That team has lost 21 straight games. So
it could be worse, is what you're saying.
It could be much worse. And that's my state of being a fan for winter sports right there. So, all right. The Toronto Maple Leafs had the AllStar patch on tonight on their jerseys, and that reminded me of the news that happened this week involving the AllStar Game. I actually would really like to talk about it with Jay, and we'll do that next on Locked on Blue Jackets. Next, I want to tell you guys about FanDuel. And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. And this is the best time to start getting in on the NFL action because games are happening on Saturday. I know the Lions got a big game. Everybody's kind of expecting them to take their foot off the gas this time of the year, trying to back their way into a division title. But I personally believe they're going to come out guns a-blazing against the Broncos. So I will be looking forward to watching that one. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Take the Lions this week. I think they're going to have a bounce back week. But again, that's $150 if your team wins. You don't have to take the Lions. If you're a Browns fan, they got the Bears this week. If you're a Bengals fan, they got the Vikings. So you got some good games there. The app, though, is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. It is never too late to kick off the NFL season. All right, Jay. So big news from the league this week as it was announced that the skills competition is going to have a little bit of a switch up, which it definitely needed a revitalization because if you had watched the skills competition over the last couple of years, they were just doing like these really weird kind of wacky games that didn't make sense. They were like fun to watch. Like I'm mostly thinking of the wrist shots into the Atlantic Ocean that they were doing for the Florida All-Star Game, but those were all like pre-recorded and just weird, so it needed a juice up. And I think what they are doing is pretty cool, and I don't have it in front of me, but they're going to be selecting 12 players from around the league. They are going to have I think it's somewhere between 8 and maybe like a dozen different competitions that they're going to be doing, but they're all going to be doing the same ones on the given night, and they're going to determine a winner, and that winner will get an extra $1 million. So it's kind of like, a pretty fun, pretty significant prize for these players. Usually it's going to include guys like McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, Kaprizov. So this is going to be a big deal for them. And Jay, we talked about this a little bit before. Your opinions on this change is what exactly, though? We didn't quite get into it because this is quite a significant move by the NHL to change up the skills competition. I think it's a good thing.
So I got really excited by this All-Star Game because they're bringing back the draft, which is far and away the best part of any All-Star Game, if you ask me, is you just let the players get toasted and rowdy, and they're bringing that back, which is great. Unfortunately, I don't love this new skills competition idea. Maybe it works out, but I feel like you're having a tough enough time, like, trying to incentivize players to go to this, and if of the, 40 players that get named, I think it is, 44 players, only 12 of them are gonna be doing the skills competition. That's a lot of guys that are gonna be hanging around, not doing a lot until the game. Um, I actually really like the weird events they do. Like, I enjoyed the dunk tank event. I liked the Vegas ones, especially the ones where they had to like shoot at giant playing cards to make 21. I thought that was fun. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that they could have done this in a different way. I think only having 12 out of your 40 or whatever players doing this is I don't think it's going to be very entertaining for basically anyone, least of all the players. Although I do enjoy making all of the players do. I think I believe there's 6 initial events, and then the top however many players at the end of that go to the 7th one, and then the top however many players of that one go to the 8th one, and then the winner of the 8th challenge is the one that gets the $1 million. And I believe they all have to do 4 out of those initial 6 events. So there'll be things like faster skater, accuracy shooting,
Slap shot.
yeah, so maybe it'll be fun, but I'm not convinced. I do agree that they needed to mix it up because I think the AHL, the NHL All-Star Game has struggled for a few years now with kind of being a little bit stale, but I'm not sure this was the way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see because 8 events seems like kind of a lot. Like, I just was running through my head, what could that all possibly be? So if you're trying to avoid that kind of gimmicky feel, you might not be really getting rid of that. But it'll be interesting to see. I think change is good. It's definitely an event that you can afford to kind of move around and change. And my buddy actually pointed out the other night, he was like, so the winner of the All-Star Skills Competition, like, is the best hockey player in the league, right? Like, if Connor McDavid doesn't win that, like, he's not the best player in the league because it's going to be like an overall evaluation of all their skills, right? So it's like, I was like, that's a decent point, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it'll be fun to watch for sure. But they led me to this next question because somebody has to go from this roster, Jay. Who is going to represent the Blue Jackets at the All-Star Game on February 4th up there in Toronto?
I mean,
February 2nd, excuse me.
You'd think that it's got to be Fantilli, right?
Is it him?
Werenski's always a solid option. I believe he's leading the team in scoring at the minute. I know people talk about Boone Jenner getting named, but obviously he's out probably until around about the All-Star Game, actually, with that broken jaw. Fantilli is my pick. I think Marchenko would be a really great sleeper pick just because the guy is so fun. I feel like just put like a mic or a camera on him and just release him into the wilds of Toronto for the weekend. And I feel like you'd get some A+ television. So like that's kind of my thought is I think Adam Fantilli has been the all-star for this team. I could also see Elvis deserving of a nod. But I don't have the goalie stats up in front of me to know whether he's one of the 3 best goalies in the Metro division right now, and I don't think he is. So I would like to see Fantilli get named. Presumably also because Connor Bedard is going to get named for Chicago, and I think it'll be fun to watch those guys face off against each other in silly skills.
Yeah, that'd be phenomenal. That would be really phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to it now. But I will say, overall, things are actually starting to look better for the Blue Jackets because they're playing better in games. And Fantilli, like, he just has those moments throughout the game where he's skating so smooth. Like, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but like those moments where the other team is like letting off the gas a little bit, he just is like, okay, I'm going to take the space and just make it harder for the team. So he's fun to watch. He's getting better. The Blue Jackets are going to get Daniil Tarasov back in their lineup. He's played some games with Cleveland already. He's already registered a win this year with the Monsters. So that's going to be good once they get him. At some point, Damon Severson's going to be healthy again, and that'll be a huge boost. And Boone Jenner's jaw, that's wild. But you're saying he could be back around the All-Star break. So if the Blue Jackets could somehow in the next couple months keep stacking some wins here and there, preferably more wins than losses, and we could be looking at a different situation by the end of January for sure. But let's just get through the rest of these games to end this month of December, because it really feels like the Blue Jackets are living a week at a time, night to night. But I don't know. I don't have any more thoughts on this game. I could go another 30 minutes on this game, to be honest. It was so much fun to watch. So many great plays. I didn't even mention Andrew Peek's assist tonight, but that was the most monstrous Andrew Peek I've ever seen.
God, Kent Johnson, if he did that again 99 times out of 100, that goal doesn't go in.
Yeah.
What a wild goal.
Yeah.
Like, Justin Danforth as well, which we didn't talk about. His goal was fully insane. Again, 9 times out of 10, that doesn't go in, but bags it off the goalie. Good for him. He's having a real good season. I'm enjoying that for Justin Danforth.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe we'll talk about Justin Danforth tomorrow in our preview of the Devils game, because the Jackets play the Devils on Saturday, so you'll get a preview for that one. I've been Hayden Housorn. You can find me on Twitter at HaydenH971. You can find my co-host Jay on there. Thank you, Jay. He is on Twitter at _JAKOBFORSTER. The show is on there at LO_Blue Jackets. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please chime in. You can email us at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.